Hey guys, Andrew here, Parabellum Defense Services. Thanks for watching again, and hopefully you've been following some of our other content because it kind of ties into one that I wanted to talk today. There's been a lot of things going around, things that I've already talked about before, things that I've already said, and I'll say it again now, and I'll probably say it again later. Many of our posts, if you've been following us, you've noticed that we talk about open carrying a lot, me open carrying in several places and in Tennessee. And I like that because it brings up a lot of discourse and conversations and things like that. Unfortunately, it's not always cordial conversations, but our Facebook posts have been overburdened with people making their own opinions very clear, which, again, is fine. I say it all the time. Opinions are opinions. Everybody's got one. You can have your opinion. You're entitled to your opinion. That's fine. The reason we promote open carry is because it's legally allowed. In Tennessee and in other states now, you can open carry or concealed carry. And one thing that's really been getting to me is people who are trying to force their opinions on others. Now, I want to make it clear that I'm not telling people to open carry. I'm telling you what I do. I tend to open carry a lot, and I tend to conceal carry a lot too. Depends on where I'm at in the situation, and we've talked about that in one of our last posts. As an instructor, it's not my job to force my ideals or my opinions or beliefs on you. My job is to give you the pros and cons of each, give you the education and training you need to be able to carry safely, and then you determine for yourself what you want to do. The only wrong answer is doing something that somebody else told you to do because they told you to do it. If I told you that I open carry and then you open carry only because I told you that I do, that's the wrong answer. If somebody tells you never open carry and only concealed carry and then you do it because that's what they told you to, that's the wrong answer. The only wrong answer is doing what you're not comfortable with. If you're not comfortable open carrying, then don't do it. Just because I open carry and you don't doesn't mean I'm wrong. Just because I open carry and you concealed carry doesn't mean you're wrong. It means what you're comfortable and safe doing. I do not want you to open carry if you're not comfortable and if you're not confident in your ability to not only maintain that firearm safely for yourself and others, but to protect that firearm in the slight off chance that someone tries to take it. Now, I won't really get into that too much right at this moment. I will be getting into that in a minute. But if you're not comfortable open carrying, that's fine. But the problem is people see me open carrying, or, I'm going to discuss my comments alone. We won't go across the nation, but go to my comments on our Facebook page and read these comments, and it's always the same things. There's three typical things I hear when it comes to open carrying, and that's, oh, you're stupid for open carrying. People are dumb for open carrying. I think open carrying makes me feel uncomfortable, or open carrying is going to make you a target. Those are the three biggest things I hear. You're stupid, it makes me feel uncomfortable, or it makes you a target. So let's go over those for a second. First off, I don't give a damn about your opinion. Call me stupid. I don't care. I didn't ask for your opinion in the first place, so call me stupid. Whatever. Me not open carrying because you think I'm stupid is not a valid reason for me not to open carry. Number two, people who open carry make me feel uncomfortable. Well, sorry, but I don't care about your feelings. I'm not carrying for your feelings. I'm carrying for my safety and others' safety. So by me not open carrying, because of your feelings, I'm catering to your feelings. And that's going to open a door that we don't want to cross. And then the third reason, well, open carrying makes you a target. And that's really what I wanted to talk about today. There's no valid statistical evidence on this. It is one of the most said comments when it comes to open carrying from military, law enforcement, civilian, securities, instructors. I hear it all the time. And it's just one of these things that I don't even know where it came from because there's no valid statistical data on that. Go up and Google or research or try to find evidence over the last 50 years, and specifically say it like this: over the last 50 years, show me statistical data on the prevalence of civilians who were targeted first in an active shooter or violent deadly force situation merely because they were open carrying. You're not going to find anything. Now, there is some data on people who have had their guns taken from them while open carrying, and again, that's a whole different conversation. But specifically being targeted merely because they're open carrying, there's just no data on that. There's nothing to prove that. Now, when we're talking about law enforcement, uniformed security guards, military personnel, uniformed officers have been targeted. Yes, they have. But they haven't been targeted merely because they're carrying. They've been targeted because they're uniform and what it represents. So look up civilians specifically being targeted first because simply they were open carrying. There's no data on that. There's no data on that. So I don't know where this keeps coming from. Matter of fact, there's more data to prove that open carrying deters crimes more than the thought of being targeted first. There is actual specific data and incidents where we can look up that someone who was open carrying deterred a criminal from committing that act mainly because he saw someone open carrying. And I say this all the time: criminals are like water. They take the path of the least resistance. If they see that there might be resistance, more than likely they're going to go somewhere else. And now, this isn't always, this isn't never, this isn't 100% facts. Things that we say is not always, right? I'm not going to say that it's always going to deter it, but there's more data to show that it deters crime more than being targeted first. Which brings up to what kind of I wanted to talk about today. I've said it before, we are our own worst enemies. Go to my Facebook posts. I am an avid Second Amendment advocate, obviously. I'm a certified instructor. I'm a state certified instructor. I've been teaching for a long time. The things that I'm teaching people are coming straight from Tennessee. So if what I'm telling you is fact, it's coming straight from the Tennessee. I'm not telling you anything that the state of Tennessee isn't disseminating. But regardless of that, let's say I'm not even an instructor. I'm just a gun owner that wants to open carry because that's my legal right to do so in Tennessee. Look at the comments. There's hundreds, and I'm not exaggerating, hundreds of comments of people calling me stupid, people telling me I'm a target, people calling me dumb, it's uncomfortable, I'm just looking for attention. Some people have even said, oh, little dick syndrome. It's like, come on. You guys are our own worst enemies. Instead of going, hey, I support the Second Amendment, I support your right to carry. I don't really open carry, but that's your thing, you do that. You're ridiculing me and trying to stop me from open carrying. And that's where we're going to draw that line. If I stop open carrying because a bunch of supposed Second Amendment advocate, people who support gun rights and my right to carry, are telling me I'm stupid and telling me all the reasons I shouldn't open carry, we just open the door for everyone else. All the anti-gun activists, I'm not going to say Democrats or Republicans or leftists, I'm going to say the anti-gun activists out there. We're our own worst enemies. So what you're doing is I'm going to stop open carrying because you're going to give me XYZ reasons I shouldn't, and then we stop open carrying. Everybody stops open carrying because you guys, not you guys specifically, but I'm just saying people in general who want to dismiss open carrying for whatever reason, convinces us that we shouldn't open carry. Well, then the anti-gun activists will then go, well, if they can convince themselves to stop open carrying, why can't we convince them to not concealed carry? If I stop open carrying because you think it's stupid, it makes me a target, It makes people uncomfortable. But then all it's going to take is other people going, I think people who conceal carry are stupid. I think people who concealed carry are only there to carry to escalate the threat. People who are concealed carry make me feel uncomfortable. People who concealed carry bring a gun to the incident, so it's already a deadly force situation, and it's already heightened the situation, and it makes people who concealed carry make me feel less safe. So as soon as we draw that line, nobody's carrying anymore. And this is the point that I try to make with these posts on open carrying. It's the legal right to do so. Should you do it? Should everybody open carry? No, I don't think everybody should open carry. No, I don't. But you need to do what you're comfortable with. So that brings me up to a couple of topics that I wanted to, articles that I read. I try to stay up on articles, and it's kind of very irritating sometimes. And if you don't know, I am prior military and law enforcement, 6 years in the Army, 12 years certified law enforcement in Florida. So this is coming from an Army veteran and a law enforcement officer. And one of the biggest things I find, again, I said it earlier, is I hate that instructors try to impose their beliefs on others. I'm not going to tell you to open carry. I'm not going to tell you to concealed carry. I'm not going to tell you to carry one in the pipe. I'm not going to tell you to carry one, or it's status red, status yellow, however you want to call it. I'm going to give you the pros and cons of them, teach you how to do all of them safely, and then you pick for yourself which one you are most comfortable with. So let's talk about this one. It's an article off of Police One. If you don't know what Police One is, it's like it publishes articles and things like that across the nation, stuff about law enforcement things, and I don't really want to say it's scholarly or peer reviewed. I don't know if I would be quoting it in a doctoral paper. Anybody can really submit stuff to them, and if they like it, they'll post it. So this one was posted January 6th of 2023 from a supposed law enforcement officer. So let me give you the background on the author real quick. It says he's an infantry, marine, combat veteran, active law enforcement officer of 7 years in a large metropolitan city. Well, when somebody says large metropolitan city, correct me if I'm wrong, but that normally sounds like Democrat-run city. 3 years on patrol. CEO and lead instructor of the business here. It's public, so I was going to say I don't want to give the information, but CEO instructor of Kinetic Concepts LLC. Now, this article is off of Police One. I'll post the links in here. January 2023, it says, Citizens, here's why you should conceal carry your firearm. That's the title. A police officer encouraged open carry citizens to reconsider open carry and understand the tactical advantage of concealed carry. So now we have a police officer who's supposedly a lead firearms instructor posting an article on why you shouldn't open carry. Now the thing is, again, everybody's got opinions. If you want to give your opinions, fine. But instructors should not be forcing their beliefs and opinions on it. We should be teaching you the pros and cons and you determining for yourself. Now, I won't read all this. Again, if you want to take the time to read it, you can. I'll try to summarize it a little bit. He says things like, don't get me wrong, there's a time and place to open carry a firearm depending on your objective. But as a police officer, I believe open carry increases your risk and puts you as a tactical disadvantage, while concealed carrying improves safety. So this is coming from a police officer, a uniformed police officer. And as a prior law enforcement officer, I'm going to go over why I think some of this is wrong. There's a time and place. Open carrying a firearm simply means that the firearm is visible to the public, referred to as permitless carry or constitutional carry. Why might a citizen legally open carry? So this is according to him, okay? Well, there are two logical or at least somewhat sensible reasons for this. First, a public exercises citizens' Second Amendment rights to bear arms. This is probably the most common reason, is to get the most attention. This is what irritates me. I am not open carrying to get attention. And matter of fact, if any of you know me, which you probably don't because I don't care to have friends anyway, I don't want attention. I don't want to talk to people. I am carrying openly because it's my legal right to do so, and it's what's most comfortable and convenient for me, and because I'm here to defend myself, my family, and others. Period. It's not for attention. Then he says, a public display is the best opportunity for public exercise your right, if you decide to demonstrate the right to carry, I recommend it is best to partake in an activity in a large group and preferably at a scheduled event known to law enforcement. Law enforcement officers are the greatest supporters of the Second Amendment. When law enforcement is notified of a Second Amendment open carry demonstration, it is a courtesy that allows them to plan a courtesy, or accordingly. When they understand what is occurring, they can coordinate assets, ensure it is done safely, and they can also discourage or better assess any 911 calls. So we have a cop telling you that the only way you should open carry is in a demonstration and when law enforcement is notified. Now, again, he's probably talking about his state. Now, it doesn't say what state he's in, but I'm sure if we look it up, we can find it. But he's probably in a democratically run city or state because it says large metropolitan area. So, yeah, if you're in a location that doesn't allow open carry, then obviously you're not going to open carry. State laws dictate open carry and concealed carry. In Tennessee, it's a permitless carry state. Now, I still do recommend people getting the permits, and that's a whole nother topic for another day, but I don't need to notify law enforcement and only carry in a public demonstration. That just sounds ridiculous. You got a cop telling you to only do it when you tell us. That's so wrong, especially coming from a cop. The second reason citizens open carry is that it's typically more comfortable. Yeah, that is true, and I've said that a lot. I like to open carry because it is more comfortable for me. While this can be true, there is likely a handgun or holster combination that will work for you to comfortably conceal carry. There are several legitimate ways to carry a firearm in a comfortable and concealed manner. Sure, that's true. That I do conceal carry sometimes. I talk about that a lot. There are firearms and holster combinations that I can carry, but it's still more comfortable for me to open carry. But again, depending on the situation, I do conceal carry. Now, he says there are several legitimate ways to carry your firearm in a comfortable and concealed manner. Well, where I'm at in Tennessee, open carrying is a legitimate way. So what you're basically saying is it's not legitimate to open carry? That's not true. Again, it might be in his state, but if he's going to write a national article, you better be talking about the entire nation, or at least specifically say, understand your state laws. While open carrying a firearm does offer you the protection you are looking for, it also puts you at a risk in what I believe are more likely scenarios. Now, here we are with the I believes and my opinions, which again is fine. You can talk about your beliefs and your opinions, but if you're going to write an article that's going to go to a national distribution place, how I say that, if it's going to go out nationally where you're trying to convince people to do something, you need to stay away from I believes and my opinions. Now, if you don't know, I'm considered ABD for my dissertation, or my PhD in criminal justice. It's all but dissertation. Unfortunately, because of money wise, I haven't been able to finish my doctorate yet, but I do have my master's, and I'm almost done with my doctorate. Now, I'm not saying that to brag. I'm saying that because if anybody's been through graduate level courses and writing papers and research papers and scholarly review, peer reviewed papers, and you're doing a quantitative or qualitative research or an argumentative paper where you're trying to convince people one way or the other, you're not using I believes and in my opinions. Matter of fact, you don't use I at all. You're looking up statistical data. Show me data to convince me otherwise. Just because you say I believe doesn't mean anything. What you are losing, in my opinion, from open carrying is far more valuable than what you think you are achieving. If survival is the most important thing to you, then you may have to abandon comfort as your priority. Although your intentions are good, I discourage open carrying for these reasons. What reasons did you give me other than it might be a little, who cares if it's a little less uncomfortable, and law enforcement wants to know, and it puts you at risk? Are you ready for police response? If you are part of a large open carry group, it makes it more obvious to law enforcement that you are part of a demonstration. Okay, see, so now he's still talking about demonstrations, and he's coming from a cop point of view, which again I get as a cop. But cops cannot try to talk to civilians in the same way we talk to cops. It just doesn't work that way. Open carry laws differ state by state. Some states require it. Yeah, okay, we talked about it. And so When someone calls 911 and officer is dispatched, it is officer duty to investigate. Quite frankly, it can be a major inconvenience for both parties. Come on. Look, as a cop of 12 years, sometimes it's inconvenient. But me not open carrying because it's inconvenient for law enforcement is not a good reason to not open carry. And you should know your state laws. We just had an incident the other day. You know, I'm getting to know our local agencies very well, and they know who I am, and they talk to me. They know I'm an instructor here. Matter of fact, they've contacted me and asked me questions before. And we had an incident the other day where somebody was open carrying in the public library. The library contacted law enforcement because they were uncomfortable with it. And the PD literally told them, well, you're just going to have to deal with it, which was the right answer because the PD knows the laws. And here, where we're at, the public library is a public space and you're allowed to open carry in that location. So there's nothing they could have done about it. He wasn't being a threat. They're calling merely because he was open carrying. And law enforcement did the right thing. So cops need to know the specific laws in their state or their city. So he goes over differences in the law, passing some of these bills and stuff like that. Are you ready to be hyper vigilant? Police officers are hyper aware and hyper vigilant of their surroundings, at least while on duty and in uniform, because they are targets. That's true. 100% I agree with that. Cops are targets. We need to have a heightened sense of awareness at all times. While in uniform, the officer must be aware of their surroundings. 100% true. Other reasons for officers to be especially aware of their surroundings while in uniform is because they are carrying a handgun on their hip and is a threat to someone attempting to disarm them. Very true. There's at least twice that I can tell you I have had to fight for my gun. Let me just explain that real quick without going into too many details. I fought for my gun only because I was in a physical altercation with a suspect that was trying to be arrested, and during that altercation, he reached for my gun. This is why law enforcement officers are required to carry, or they should be required to carry, triple retention holsters. So, yes, this is true. They need to be aware of their surroundings. And then he quotes an article from 2002 to 2011, 543 police officers were feloniously killed, and another 5.1%, 28 of those officers were killed by their own weapon after being disarmed. Yeah, and that's extremely unfortunate, and that is a risk with law enforcement officers. We do have to be very vigilant of our surroundings, and that has happened. But he's talking to citizens, but bringing up law enforcement statistics. Those are two completely different statistics. Law enforcement officers are a target merely because of their uniform, not because of their gun, what they represent. Law enforcement officers fight more people every day than most citizens. Matter of fact, most citizens can go their entire lives without ever getting a fight. But to that matter, is there a possibility that because you're open carrying, you have to worry about being disarmed? Yeah, I suppose. I'm not going to say, again, I don't say always and I don't say never. There is a chance, and we have seen some statistics on people being disarmed. Again, I revert back to, I haven't found any statistics on somebody specifically being targeted and shot first because they were open carry. I have seen some videos and incidents of people being disarmed. Yes, if you're going to open carry, you do have to be hyper vigilant. You do have to be aware of your surroundings. And you should. What I tell people, if you're going to open carry, again, I don't tell you you should or shouldn't. If you're going to open carry, you need to have, at a minimum, a level 2 retention holster, because that's going to help prevent them from taking it out of your holster. And I say that all the time. If you're going to open carry, you should carry with, at a minimum, a level 2 retention holster. Then on top of that, it would be even better if you had some type of weapon retention training. If somebody goes for your gun, do you know how to defend your gun and yourself? Now, again, I'm going to go back to criminals are like water. The chances of that happening are pretty slim. And again, I'm not going to say always, I'm not going to say never. We have seen documented incidents of that happening, but the chances are pretty slim. What I tell people in that is, what I worry about with open carrying is, yes, it can be used if you get into a defensive altercation. Now, in Tennessee, in most states, specifically define defensive force and deadly force as two distinctly different types of forces. And I tell people, you're more than likely to be in a defensive force situation where you have to defend yourself from a suspect or an aggressor that doesn't meet the criteria for deadly force. And a lot of people, this is why I promote training, is people think that your gun is just your one-stop shop for defensive actions, but it's not. There has to be a specific level met in order to use deadly force. So let's say you get in a physical altercation with somebody that doesn't display a deadly weapon, is not using anything as far as deadly force is concerned. It's a physical altercation, a defensive force place where deadly force criteria is not met, and you're open carrying or even concealed carrying. This goes to concealed carrying too, where you have to defend yourself, but you can't deploy your gun. You can't even threaten your gun. And this is another thing too. People are like, well, I'll just threaten them with it. I'll show them my gun. I'll brandish it or whatever. You can't do that. In Tennessee anyway, Tennessee says threatening or brandishing your firearm has to meet the same criteria as deadly force. If somebody comes up to you with their fists up in the air and you go, back up, I'm going to shoot you, you've now violated the law. That was an aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. It didn't fit the criteria for deadly force. Therefore, you couldn't threaten to use deadly force. So if you're open carrying, people know you have it. So I think that's a good thing, because more than likely somebody's not going to come up to me and want to fist fight knowing that I'm open carrying. Somebody's not going to come up to me and want to rob me if I'm open carrying. Criminals are like water. They're going to take the path of the least resistance. Who would a criminal rob? The guy standing there open carrying, or the person standing on the other side of the road that's not open carrying? More than likely, they're going to go after that person. Now, he talked about in this article earlier about tactical response, and I think he's going to bring that up in a little bit. It's like, well, you don't have a tactical response. You don't have the element of surprise. It's like, I don't want the element of surprise. I want to deter the crime altogether, but I'll leave that at there because I think it's in here. The point I'm making is, if you get in a physical defensive force altercation, they could at that point now try to go for your firearm. So you need to have training on weapon retention and have a holster with a retention device on it. And if you're not comfortable fighting for your gun in a small, slightly chance situation that it happens, then don't open carry. Again, I'm not telling people to open carry. But again, he's using law enforcement statistics to justify why civilians shouldn't do it. And those two statistics just don't meet. Yes, law enforcement officers are targets. They have to fight for their guns. They have to fight all the time. Citizens, not so much. You can protect yourself from disarmament. Well, yeah. I mean, if you're concealed carrying, they're not supposed to know you have it. So somebody's not going to typically try to come up and grab your gun if they don't know you have it. Again, statistically speaking, there's like less than a 1% chance somebody's going to come up and try to take your gun. Now, does that mean there's no chance? No, there is a chance. So again, weapon retention device on your holster. Even under circumstances where officers do not expect criminal behavior, they must be conscious of how they may be exposing their firearm to citizens in everyday encounters, as well as questioning and arresting suspects. True. While this might mean standing sideways with their gun counter to the gas station while they're checking out to prevent the possibility of a civilian having access. This might mean standing sideways with their gun to the counter at the gas station while they are checking out to prevent. Yeah, okay, true. Again, officers. Officers are targeted a heck of a lot more than civilians. Fortunately, the number of officers being disarmed and or killed with their firearm has significantly decreased in recent years. That's true, and that's a great number. Yes, I agree. Together, increased levels of training through defensive tactics, firearm retention, and advanced holster retention systems are reducing the risk of officers being killed. True. Advanced training levels, defensive tactics, firearm retention techniques, and holsters with retention systems. That's true. Frankly, most citizens do not have the similar level of training and do not carry in holsters with retention. I agree. I promote training 100%. Yes, get more training and have retention systems. But again, he's still talking about law enforcement compared to citizens, and cops have to be a lot more hypervigilant. And I'm not saying that if you're going to open carry, you need to be more hypervigilant, but you have to do the same when you're concealed carrying. You have to still be hypervigilant when you're concealed carrying. Could you still end up fighting for your gun If you're concealed carrying, yeah, if you get in a physical altercation, defensive force situation that doesn't meet deadly force and you start fighting with someone, more likely or not, they're going to feel the gun. It's going to become exposed during the altercation or something, and they might still go for it. So that argument to me isn't 100% sound, because you could still fight for your gun in a concealed carry situation as well. Then he brings up open carry. Is it a tactical advantage? Do you assume that by open carrying a handgun, you are representing a show of force and a deterrent to criminals? Yes, 100%. Let me read that again. Do you assume that by open carrying a handgun, you represent a show of force and a deterrent to criminals? Yes, 100%. Yes. Again, show me where someone has been specifically targeted merely because they're open carrying, and then show me cases where criminals have been deterred because someone was open carrying. There are more documented cases because of that. Matter of fact, I tell this to people all the time. A civilian response stops more crime and more death and more injury than a law enforcement response. Statistics show that a civilian response to an active shooter situation significantly lowers the number of people injured or death in that situation. Now, that could be open carry or concealed carrying. But am I open carrying? Do I believe that I am deterring criminals? Yes. Statistics show that. That may be the case occasionally. Sure, again, it's not always and not never, but there's more documented cases of me deterring crime, or people open carrying deterring crime. You also make yourself a target to be disarmed, and a target to become an unintentional victim of a crime of opportunity. There's just no statistical data on that. Making yourself a target. Again, an unintentional victim of a crime of opportunity. I get what he's saying there. Again, we go back to somebody randomly comes up and takes your gun. Yeah, a criminal could go, ooh, free gun. Again, criminals are getting guns by stealing them. They're not going to an FFL and getting them. And then we go back to gun control doesn't work because criminals are stealing them anyway. So, yeah, a crime of opportunity. Criminal goes, ooh, I need to steal me a gun so I can go commit a crime. This guy's open carrying. Very minimal chance. Statistics show there's a less than 1% chance nationwide of people who open carry and concealed carry of getting their guns stolen. But is there a chance? Yes. That's why I go back to carrying with a retention device, being hyper-vigilant, hyper-aware, and having weapon retention training. You having a minimum of a level 2 retention holster will more than likely stop that almost instantly. Let's say a criminal does come up behind you. You're standing at the gas station counter, like in his thing, it's open, and a criminal goes, ooh, I want that. More than likely, they're not studying your holster. We're giving them way too much credit, okay? They're not studying your holster to see what kind of retention device you have. They're going to go, ooh, let me try to grab that. Well, I carry a level 2 retention holster on my belt. If they go to tug it, it's not coming out. And by then, I'm actively retaining my firearm. I'm going into weapon retention mode. I'm defending it now. And they're going to go, oh crap, and take off running because they can't get it out. Now, if you don't have a retention holster, yeah, they take it, they run, bam, they got your gun. I promote carrying with a retention holster. More than likely, he's not going to start tugging on it and we're going to get in a fight. And if we do, it's probably not going to end well for him anyway. But he's not going to get it out of my holster. Period. He's more likely to rip the holster off my belt than to get the gun out of the holster. So, does that mean we shouldn't open carry? No, it doesn't. We can't let fear and other people stop us from carrying, because there's been people who have concealed carry that's got their guns taken. Women conceal carry in their purse. They become a victim of opportunity because they got the purse over the shoulder. The guy comes up with the knife, shove it in their face, says, give me your purse. She gives her a purse, she takes off, and he's got the purse and the gun now. You can still be a victim of opportunity and get your gun taken even if you're concealed carrying. Is it less likely? Sure, but it's also less likely that it's going to happen in the first place. So carrying a retention device may very well prevent that. Not always, not never, but may very well prevent that in the small chance that it happens from them taking it from you. Let's see what else he said. Imagine standing in line at a grocery store when a subject walks through the cash register with the intent to commit an armed robbery. Instead of being bypassed by the subject and likely disregarded entirely, the subject now feels the need to deal with you because the subject knows you're armed. He says imagine. Why is he saying imagine? Because there's no data on that. There's no evidence of that actually happening. We have not seen any statistical data on that happening. Why? Because if the guy is going to rob the grocery store and sees somebody open carrying, he's probably not going to rob the grocery store. So we have to imagine that scenario happening, because more likely than not, that is not going to happen. He's going to go somewhere else because he doesn't want resistance. Criminals are like water. They take the path of least resistance. And if he sees you open carrying, statistics have shown, and I'm not saying I believe, in my opinion, statistics have shown that it deters crime. He's more likely to go somewhere else. It is possible that open carrying a firearm will deter a suspect from committing a violent act. While this is a possibility, a violent criminal may still view you as a threat that they need to deal with. I have spent thousands of hours conducting surveillance on violent criminals who conduct aggravated robberies. I have seen aggravated robberies occur in strong-arm type of manner that take minutes to execute. From the moment they enter the location, they are committed with guns clearly visible. They will not suddenly turn around and walk away if they see you open carrying. Again, where's the stats on that? Where's the stats on that? Yeah, there's been documented cases where people have pre-planned robberies or burglaries or whatever, and merely because people were open carrying, it prevented them from happening. Take the Pulse nightclub shooting. Edit that out. I don't want to talk about that. Look that up and see if you can find that, and just go, look right here. The guy, I don't specifically know all the documents, so see if you can't find that up and just go, and I'll say, like in this incident. But there's more documents that do deter it. Thousands of hours conducting surveillance on violent criminals and suggested a criminal's strong arm type robberies. That means that robbery by sudden snatching. Somebody comes up to you, opens a knife, puts it in your face, and says, give me your wallet or your purse. Well, the thing is, if you're open carrying or concealed carrying, at that point, you're probably not going to be making a move for your firearm because they already have a jump on you. Unless, I probably would, because I have extensive experience on that. I'm going to probably back up, create distance, a barrier between me and the knife, draw my firearm, and hopefully pop a couple rounds in him. Maybe, depending on the situation. Maybe I won't. But that's going to happen whether you're open carrying or concealed carrying. I've also seen suspects take several hours or even days while conducting their own surveillance. A Houston police officer in full uniform was disarmed during an aggravated robbery. Again, he's bringing up police incidents, not civilian incidents. Why? Because we don't have, there's not very many, if any at all, where someone has specifically been targeted for open carrying. Civilians have been targeted a lot for strong arm robberies. Yeah, because most cops aren't getting robbed while in uniform. But again, he's bringing up stats of cops. Is the prize high enough, and the suspect, if the prize is high enough and the suspect is truly dedicated, open carrying a firearm will not discourage them. Well, either will concealed carry. You're arguing for both sides. Either will concealed carry. Is open carry a tactical disadvantage? Well, when open carrying a handgun, your opportunity to get the drop on the bad guy with a gun is likely lost. But if you're concealed carrying, you reduce your time to get the drop on the bad guy as well, because now I got to go and pull it out. So you're kind of at a less advantage to get the drop on him. If a subject with a firearm has a gun pointed, has you at gunpoint, what options do you have? A move for your handgun will likely get you shot. In fact, it is probably in your best interest to keep your hands as far away from your handgun as you can, which also means there's a high probability of being disarmed. You have taken yourself out of the fight before you even have the opportunity to fight. Yeah, but that's the same argument for concealed carry. That's not an open carry argument. That's an argument for, even if you have a gun, if somebody's got you at gunpoint, got the drop on you, their action to shoot you is going to be faster than your reaction to draw and try to shoot them, especially if they already got you at gunpoint. If you're open carrying or concealed carrying, you're not going for your gun at that point. I wouldn't, regardless of my training. That's not an argument for open carry. That's an argument altogether to not go for your gun if somebody's pointing a gun at you. Carrying a handgun concealed allows you to remain covert in your carry until it makes sense for you to draw. Sure, if it makes sense to draw at all. Okay, so now he's arguing that either or, open or concealed carrying, maybe you shouldn't draw at all. At a minimum, it allows you to appear as an innocent bystander. Okay, and there's a less chance of you being targeted. At a minimum, it allows you to appear as an innocent bystander, and there's less chance of you being targeted. What? Criminals take the path of least resistance. They want the soft targets, not the hard targets. You're more likely to be a target if you look like a soft target. How does that make any sense? By concealed carrying makes you look like an innocent bystander, so you're not going to be targeted? No, that makes zero sense. Zero sense. Innocent bystanders won't be targeted. No, that makes no sense. If you are the victim of a robbery, there's a good chance you can still stall, delay, or even distract the bad guy long enough to draw your handgun if you think it's necessary. Well, that's true. Open carry or concealed carry. It's all about distractions and stalling and delaying. And I guess if you have it open carry, they do see it. But again, I'm still distracting them. And to my point, tactical advantage comes down to training and experience, and regardless of prior military, law enforcement, civilians, tactics comes from the person experience. I know cops that probably wouldn't be very tactical in that situation. I know prior military that probably wouldn't be tactical in that situation. Tactical advantage doesn't come from open carry or concealed carry. It comes from your personal training and repetition and muscle memory. Then he says, concealed carry, how to have the tactical advantage. Carrying a firearm is a tremendous responsibility that you should not be taken lightly. Even when you have good intentions, things can go wrong. Margin for error. That's true. Therefore, it is in your best interest to give yourself a tactical advantage by seeking out advanced levels of civilian firearms training. Sure. That's period. Concealed or open carry. Taking advanced training in defensive tactics or self-defense, weapon retention training, that's true open carry or concealed carry. Tips. Understand the legal requirements for your state. Yep. Seek out additional firearm training. I agree. Maintain a high level of proficiency. I agree. Know that just because you can intervene doesn't mean you should. I agree. Oftentimes allowing the situation to resolve itself may be your best course of action. I agree. I agree. But the thing is, so that's the end of that, and then it goes into it. I don't think he made any arguments whatsoever to convince me to not open carry. Matter of fact, some of his arguments were just dumb, I'd say. But yet, he is trying to tell civilians, an instructor and a cop, trying to tell civilians why we shouldn't open carry. And I don't think he had an argument at all other than his own beliefs. So basically, he summed it all up, and you can sum it up to go, I didn't really provide you a good argument of why you shouldn't open carry other than I don't think you should. And that's not a good argument. So I really want instructors to get away from trying to force their beliefs on you. We have to teach you the pros and cons, safety, training, and then you decide for yourself. You could go through advanced tactics and all that kind of stuff and be very proficient in weapon retention and still decide you don't want to open carry, or vice versa. It's got to be up to you. But I don't really think he made an argument to convince me not to open carry, especially because he's using law enforcement statistics. And again, I go back to, why is he using law enforcement statistics and not giving me statistics on what's happened to civilians? Because there's not any, or they're not documented, or I can't find any. Again, yeah, you could probably post in your comments and give me some articles of people who had their guns taken from them. It's happened. The amount of gun owners that are carrying in this nation compared to the people who are getting their guns taken is almost, if you're doing a scientific method, it's like null. I mean, the number's so low that it's almost not even worth mentioning. But there is a chance. And as an instructor, I have to tell you, if there's a 1% chance of it happening, you have to act like it can happen. So have retention devices on your holster and take some extra training. But that's still not a good argument for not open carrying. And again, I go back to, we have cops, instructors, Second Amendment advocates, people who carry guns themselves, trying to tell me not to open carry because whatever their opinion is. Again, and I'll say it again, just because you do it and I don't doesn't mean I'm wrong. Just because I do it and you don't doesn't mean you're wrong. Just because you don't like it doesn't mean I'm wrong. If I stop carrying because XYZ reasons you list, I've drawn that line to give the anti-gun activists reason to get us to stop concealed carrying at all, which brings me to the next topic article that I just found. This is from Trace, and again, I'll post it in the link. Thetrace.org, posted by Mike Spies, July 28th, 2025. Ready for it? Here's the article. Concealed handguns create a climate of fear, the gun industry's own research reveals. Oh, shocker. They're trying to get us to stop concealed carrying now. Well, they've been trying to do that for a while. So let's give them ammunition by fighting with each other to convince each other not to open carry. Again, if you don't like open carrying, don't open carry. If you're uncomfortable open carrying, don't open carry. But don't try to take away my right to open carry, because then all that takes is somebody else trying to take away your right. What if I walked up to you, let's say for whatever reason I knew you were concealed carrying. Maybe I knew you, maybe I saw it slip out, which then wouldn't be concealed carrying, but hypothetically, I found out you're concealed carrying, and I'm an anti-gun activist, and I walk up to you and say, I think concealed carry is stupid. I think anybody who carries a gun is stupid. I think you're dumb. And matter of fact, it makes me feel uncomfortable when you concealed carry. I don't feel safe around you because you concealed carry. I think people who concealed carry or bring guns into a public setting are just escalating the situation right off the bat. What would you say to them? You'd probably say, I don't care about your opinion. I don't care about your feelings. That's not true. I'm here to defend myself and you if something were to happen. Well, that's the same thing you're doing to me or others when you're trying to argue why they shouldn't open carry. So again, I'll just trying to hit this up. You can read it. I'll post it in. It says firearm industry is pushing Congress to loosen nationwide restrictions on carrying. Again, statistics show that gun-free zones have more violent crimes. Gun control doesn't work. Oh, let's see. They bring up statistics over the last 14 years. Carrying firearms makes people more secure. Studies conducted over the last 14 years by the National Shooting Sports Foundation Gun Industries Trade Group have meanwhile found that the practice is a boon for industry business. But what is good profits, according to the NSSF study for that period, has resulted in a harmful trade-off. As armed Americans have moved into public spaces, people in every corner of society have felt an increased sense of danger. I've never seen that. I mean, where are they getting these statistics from? A market research report produced in 2018 titled Multi-Generational Research, Purchases, Perceptions, and Participation for the Firearm Industry was based on a survey of 1,800 people. 1,800 people. At how many people did the United States have? Like 300 million or something? I don't know. Look, I'll look it up. Let me see. I'll look it up right now. How many people are in the U.S.? Oh, it's close. 341 million. And they're quoting a research of survey done by 1,800 people. That's like a corner on some of these cities. Spanning 4 generations from baby boomers to Gen Z, and asked a wide range of questions covering a variety of gun-related topics. And if this was in a Democratic-run city, this statistics would be completely different from like if you asked 1,800 people here in Madisonville, Tennessee. I mean, 1,800 people out of 340 million. After wide-ranging questions covering a variety of gun-related topics, the research concluded that more Americans feel less safe when it comes to people legally carrying concealed guns in public. The finding applied to non-gun owners and gun owners alike. While millennials and liberals and non-owners are more adamant about feeling less safe, of course, the majority of gun owners and conservatives also don't feel safe when it comes to carrying concealed. Who are you getting that information from? You surveyed 1,800 people, and now you're saying that the majority of gun owners, conservative, don't feel safe? I don't believe that. 1,800 people out of 341 million? Nah. But anyway, this whole article goes over how they think people who concealed carry are creating a less safe and more fearsome environment out in public, and that we need to take that away. And now, if you go through, I'm not going to go through this article in as much detail as the other one because I had more to say about the other one, and I just think this one's ridiculous, especially because they're basing it off of a research done by surveying 1,800 people. Now, I do realize that it's almost impractical to survey 340 million people, but with technology and stuff nowadays, we can get more than 1,800 people. Especially because it says in this article, some 23 million Americans now have permits, according to estimate of the United States Concealed Carry Association. The point I want to make bringing up this article is, well, they're trying to tell us not to concealed carry. And we have other people who are supposed gun advocates telling us not to open carry. And to me, both of these articles are saying the same thing. They're trying to take away and limit our right to carry and possess a firearm. Now, if you live in a state where you can't open carry, well, then that sucks. I guess you're going to have to conceal carry or move to a state that allows open carry. That brings up a topic of having nationwide similar gun laws and stuff like that. But both of these articles are basically saying the same thing. They're trying to take away and limit our right to carry our guns. And if you are a Second Amendment advocate who advocates for people carrying guns, but then try to tell me to stop open carrying, then to me, it's just the same as these conservative Democrats trying to tell us not to concealed carry. You can tell me, hey man, I support your right to open carry. I support your right to carry. I don't do that. I don't feel comfortable doing that, but you do you. Okay, that's great. That's what I'm going to tell you. You want to concealed carry or open carry? I'm just going to tell you to do it safely. Do it safely, confidently, and practice weapon retention, practice holstering and unholstering. Because let's go back to the tactical advantage. As an instructor, I can tell you, most people, now I guarantee you there's going to be comments going, I do it all the time. I do it all the time. Great. I hope you are. But I can tell you as an instructor, most people are not sitting at their home with their apex or appendix or index carry, however you want to say it, dry firing, which means you don't have ammo in it, doing this. Practicing getting in and out of their holster. A lot of people practice shooting, and a lot of people are very good at shooting, but most people, in my experience, are not practicing holstering and unholstering. Therefore, regardless if you're open carry or concealed carry, you're not going to get it out in time when shit hits the fan in an aggressive situation. If you can't sit here and do this competently and quickly right now, you're not going to do it when there's a knife or a gun in your face, or God forbid rounds are flying back at you. So tactical advantage again goes back to the person's training, and it's an argument for both concealed carry and open carry that you need to train and have muscle memory and get it out of your holster quickly. So as a gun rights advocate, as someone who carries, stop telling people who open carry they're stupid. Stop trying to convince them not to open carry. Instead, support their decision to carry. And maybe you could, what's the word I'm looking for? Try to enforce training and education, because again, I want everybody to carry safely. If you can't carry safely open carrying, then don't. If you can't carry safely concealed carrying, then don't, because I don't want you to be a danger to yourself and others. So again, in conclusion, you guys, we need to start supporting each other and how we're carrying. We need to support training and education and muscle memory and stuff like that. But if we're going to keep going down this path where we're trying to convince people not to open carry, then it's only going to be a matter of time before people stop concealed carrying. So let me know what you think. Give me some comments. Ask me some questions. We'll talk about it more. Again, let's have constructive criticisms and debates. And let me know what you think.